The orbital station Vierx drifted quietly above a blue-white gas giant, its massive rings glowing with soft artificial light. Hundreds of ships moved through its docking lanes like slow fish in a cosmic ocean. Traders, explorers, diplomats, and mercenaries from dozens of alien civilizations came here every day, each carrying different cultures and different reasons for being far from home. Humans were still new to this part of the galaxy. Most species watched them with curiosity mixed with doubt. Humans did not have sharp claws or powerful psychic abilities. Their technology was good but not the most advanced. Yet humans appeared everywhere, adapting quickly, learning faster than expected, and forming strange alliances. Kale walked through the station with steady steps, hands in the pockets of his worn jacket. He was a cargo negotiator, a small role compared to ambassadors or military captains, but it allowed him to travel widely. He enjoyed observing different species more than making profit. The central market buzzed with sounds and colors. Floating displays shimmered with alien symbols. Creatures with scales, feathers, or glowing skin moved through the crowd. Some floated instead of walking. Others communicated through bursts of light or soft humming. Kale paused near a food stall, watching two traders argue over mineral crystals. He smiled slightly. No matter how advanced a civilization became, trade disputes looked the same everywhere. As he turned to continue walking, he noticed her. She stood near the edge of the observation walkway, separated from the crowd as if an invisible wall surrounded her. She was tall, taller than most humans, with long, elegant limbs and smooth silver-blue skin that reflected the station lights. Her posture was calm but alert, like someone used to being watched. Several aliens passed by but kept their distance. Some glanced at her and quickly looked away. Kale noticed the tension immediately. He had seen it before, the quiet avoidance reserved for someone considered dangerous or misunderstood. He approached slowly, not directly at first. He stopped beside the railing, pretending to admire the view outside. The gas giant's storms moved like slow spirals beneath them. After a moment, he spoke casually without looking at her. "Beautiful view," he said. She did not answer. Kale waited patiently. Silence did not bother him. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft but clear, carrying a faint musical tone. "You are human." "Yes," he replied. "Does that worry you?" "No," she said. "It surprises me." He turned slightly toward her, offering a small, friendly smile. "Good surprise or bad surprise?" She studied him carefully, eyes glowing faintly like distant stars. "Undetermined." Kale laughed quietly. "Fair enough." They stood in silence again. He noticed how still she remained, as if conserving energy or hiding emotion. Up close, he saw subtle lines along her legs, natural patterns that shifted gently with movement. Without thinking too deeply, he said, "Your legs are beautiful." "The patterns look like moving light." The words came out naturally, without intention beyond appreciation. She froze. Kale realized that maybe he had crossed a cultural boundary. "Sorry," he added quickly. "I didn't mean anything strange, just observation." Instead of reacting with anger, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with greater intensity. "No one says that," she said slowly. "That your legs look impressive, that they are beautiful," she corrected. Kale shrugged lightly. "Well, they are." A long pause followed. People passed behind them, but the world seemed quieter around the two of them. After a moment, she said, "I have something prettier, want to see?" Her words were calm, almost curious. Kale blinked once, surprised by the sudden invitation. There was no flirtation in her tone, only sincerity. "What kind of something?" he asked. "You must decide if you trust me," she said. He considered the situation. Most species on Vierx avoided Illyrians. He recognized her species now from galactic briefings. They were rare, emotionally complex, and rumored to possess unusual bioenergy abilities. But Kale had learned long ago that rumors were often exaggerated. "I'm curious," he said. "Lead the way." She turned without another word and began walking toward a quieter section of the station. Kale followed at a respectful distance. They moved through corridors where the lights dimmed slightly and fewer travelers walked. Security drones hovered near the ceiling, tracking movement silently. As they passed, one drone paused, scanning the alien woman longer than necessary. Kale noticed but said nothing. "What is your name?" he asked after a few minutes. "Lyris," she answered. "I'm Kale." "I know," she said softly. He raised an eyebrow but did not question how she knew. They stopped before a sealed observation chamber. Lyris placed her hand against the access panel. Symbols flashed, and the door slid open with a quiet hiss. Inside, the room was empty except for a transparent wall showing deep space. Stars stretched endlessly beyond. Lyris walked to the center and turned to face him. "You do not fear me," she said. "I don't see a reason to," Kale replied. "Others do." "Others are often wrong," he said simply. She watched him carefully, as if measuring truth against expectation. Then she closed her eyes. The air changed. A soft glow formed around her hands, spreading outward like liquid light. The glow gathered into shapes, flowing patterns of color that moved slowly through the air. It was neither hologram nor simple energy. It felt alive. Kale stepped closer, fascinated. Images appeared within the glowing structure. Memories, maybe landscapes, unfamiliar skies, distant cities, moments of loneliness. He saw Lyris standing among her own people, then walking away alone. He saw crowds avoiding her, doors closing, ships leaving. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "This is what I meant," she said quietly. "Not my body, this," he nodded slowly. "It's like living art. It is memory made visible," she said. "Only shared with those I trust." Kale felt honored by the gesture. Before he could speak again, a loud alarm echoed through the station. Red lights flashed along the walls. Lyris's energy construct flickered and vanished instantly. "What's happening?" Kale asked. Her expression changed, becoming tense. "They found me," she said softly. Outside the observation window, several dark ships emerged from hyperspace, forming a tight formation. The station speakers activated, announcing emergency protocols. Kale felt a chill. Whatever was coming, it was serious. He looked at Lyris, who stood perfectly still, eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. "They are here for me," she whispered. Kale took a slow breath. "Well," he said quietly, "then I guess we need a plan." She turned toward him, surprised by his calm tone. "You would help me." He shrugged slightly. "Seems like the human thing to do." Outside, the enemy ships moved closer, their dark silhouettes blocking the light of distant stars. Inside the chamber, two strangers stood side by side, their meeting about to change far more than either of them expected. The alarm lights continued to flash across the observation chamber, painting the walls in red and white pulses. Outside the window, the dark ships moved slowly, spreading into a wide formation around the station. They did not fire. They simply waited, silent and heavy like predators circling their prey. Kale crossed his arms and watched them carefully. He had seen many ships during his travels, but something about these vessels felt different. Their shapes were sharp and angular, almost organic, and their engines left faint distortions in space itself. "What are they?" he asked quietly. Lyris did not look away from the window. "Hunters," she said. "They believe Illyrians should not exist outside their control." Kale frowned slightly. "And they tracked you all the way here?" "Yes." Her voice held no fear, only tired acceptance. Station-wide announcements echoed through the corridor outside. Emergency protocols activated. Non-essential personnel were ordered to remain in safe zones. Docking bays began sealing one by one. Kale stepped closer to the window. "If they wanted to attack, they would already have started." "They prefer pressure," Lyris said. "They will demand my surrender." As if on cue, the station speakers changed tone. A deep mechanical voice translated across multiple languages. "Attention, Vierk Station. You harbor an Illyrian fugitive. Deliver her and no harm will come to your facility." Kale let out a slow breath. "Well, that's not subtle." Lyris turned toward him. Her expression remained calm, but her eyes dimmed slightly. "The station will consider it. Logic says one life is worth less than thousands." Kale shook his head immediately. "Humans don't always follow that kind of math." She watched him with curiosity. "Many species do." "Maybe," he said, "but humans are stubborn." Before she could respond, the chamber door slid open. Two security officers entered, accompanied by a hovering drone projecting an official holographic badge. "Citizen Kale," one officer said, "an Illyrian individual. You are requested at the command council immediately." Kale glanced at Lyris. She nodded once. They followed the officers through busy corridors filled with anxious movement. Traders hurried to secure goods. Families gathered in waiting areas. Military drones floated into defensive positions. As they walked, Kale noticed how others reacted to Lyris. Some stared openly. Others whispered, fear mixed with curiosity. He walked slightly closer to her, not in protection, but in quiet support. They entered the command chamber, a wide circular room filled with representatives from multiple species. Screens displayed tactical information, energy signatures, fleet positions, probability calculations. A tall reptilian commander turned toward them. "You are the Illyrian being hunted." "Yes," Lyris answered simply. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Your presence places this station at risk." Kale stepped forward before she could reply. "She didn't invite the fleet. They came here by choice." Several council members exchanged looks. "The enemy demands surrender," another official said. "If we refuse, conflict becomes likely." Silence filled the room. Kale felt frustration rise. "So you're actually considering handing her over?" "We must consider all options," the reptilian commander replied coldly. Lyris raised a hand gently. "I understand your position." "I will leave voluntarily." Kale turned toward her sharply. "No," she looked surprised. "You don't owe them that," he said firmly. "It is logical," she said. "My life against many." "Humans don't always follow logic," he repeated. One council member leaned forward. "Human, this is not your decision." Kale met their gaze calmly. "Maybe not, but you're making a mistake." The room grew tense. "What mistake?" another asked. "You're assuming surrender guarantees safety," Kale said, "but predators rarely stop once they get what they want. Today it's her, tomorrow it's someone else." Murmurs spread among the council. Lyris watched him closely, something warm flickering behind her calm expression. The reptilian commander crossed his arms. "Do you propose an alternative?" Kale hesitated only briefly. "Yes." "We show them this station isn't divided." The commander tilted his head. "Explain." Kale glanced at Lyris before speaking. "They expect fear, they expect isolation. What they don't expect is unity." Several council members looked skeptical. "You are a traitor," one said. "Not a strategist." Kale smiled faintly. "Trade teaches you about people and about power." The room fell silent as he continued. "Humans survive because we build connections. If enough species stand together, the enemy loses advantage." "And if they attack anyway?" someone asked. "Then at least we fight on our own terms," Kale said. Lyris spoke softly. "There is more." All eyes turned to her. "My species can generate bioenergy fields capable of shielding structures," she said. "But emotional instability weakens control." Kale nodded slowly, understanding forming. "You mean you could help defend the station?" he said. "Yes, with support." The council exchanged looks again. One official leaned forward. "Why should we trust you?" Lyris did not answer immediately. Instead, she extended her hands. A soft glow formed between them, similar to what Kale had seen earlier. Images appeared, not words, but feelings. Loneliness, exile, survival. The room grew quiet. "This is my truth," she said simply. Kale stepped forward beside her. "And I trust her." The reptilian commander studied both of them carefully. "Very well, we will attempt defensive preparations, but if this fails—" "I know," Lyris said. Preparations began immediately. Engineers worked to reinforce shield generators. Traders offered spare equipment. Even species who usually avoided conflict volunteered assistance. Kale moved through the chaos, helping coordinate communication between groups. Humans, he realized, often acted as bridges because they understood many perspectives. Lyris stood at the center of a large energy platform, focusing deeply. Light gathered around her, spreading slowly outward. At first it flickered, unstable. Kale approached carefully. "You okay? My emotions are turbulent," she admitted. He nodded. "Understandable." He sat nearby, not speaking much, just being present. After a moment, he began telling simple human stories about explorers who failed but kept trying, about people who protected strangers, about unlikely friendships formed in difficult times. Lyris listened while maintaining focus. Gradually, the energy field stabilized, growing brighter and stronger. Outside, the enemy fleet shifted formation. Another message arrived. "Final warning," the mechanical voice announced. "Surrender the Illyrian." The station remained silent. Kale watched the growing shield around them, feeling a quiet sense of pride. Maybe humans were not the strongest species physically, but they had something different, the ability to believe in others, even when logic suggested walking away. As the shield expanded across the station, glowing like a second sun, Kale realized something important. The galaxy had expected humans to follow. Instead, they were learning how to lead. The enemy ships powered weapons. The battle had not yet begun, but the moment before conflict felt heavier than any explosion. Kale took a deep breath and looked at Lyris. "We're not alone anymore," he said. She opened her eyes, energy blazing softly around her. "Yes," she said. "Now they will see." Outside, light spread across Vyark's station as the shield activated fully, a symbol of unity stronger than fear. And the galaxy watched. The shield around Vyark's station glowed like a second skin, a wide dome of soft white-blue light that bent the stars behind it. From the inside, it looked almost peaceful, like dawn trapped in glass. From the outside, it looked like a message. We are not afraid. Kale stood on the command deck with the Council and the station's security teams. The air smelled faintly of warm metal from overworked systems. Screens displayed the enemy fleet in tight formation, weapons charging in slow, steady pulses. They were not rushing. They were confident. Lyris remained on the energy platform in the neighboring chamber, connected by a transparent wall. She could see the command deck and Kale could see her. The light around her rose and fell like breathing. The reptilian commander's voice was low and tense. Their weapons are ready. Our barrier is holding steady for now. Kale watched the tactical display. They still think we will panic. One of the council members, a slender avian diplomat with bright feathers, clicked their beak. They do not understand cooperation. They rely on fear. Kale nodded. Then we give them something else to worry about. Another message arrived, broadcast across the station and translated automatically. Surrender the Illyrian now. If you refuse, we will breach your defenses and take her ourselves. Lyris's eyes narrowed. The glow around her hands trembled for a second, then steadied. Kale felt a small surge of relief. She was still holding control. The commander looked at Kale. Human, you argued we should not give in. Now we are moments from violence. What is your next move? Kale took a slow breath. He did not pretend to be fearless. His heart was beating fast and his throat felt dry, but he had learned something during his years of travel. Fear did not disappear when someone became brave. Fear simply stopped being the boss. We don't answer fear with fear, he said. We answer it with clarity. The commander's eyes narrowed. Meaning, Kale pointed at the external cameras, open a direct channel not just to them, to everyone who is watching. A few council members stared. The public networks? The avian diplomat asked. Yes, Kale said. If this turns into a quiet handover in a back room, they win. If it turns into a story the galaxy hears, they lose control of the narrative. Several species had their own words for it, but Kale could see the idea land. Reputation mattered. Public pressure mattered. Even predators avoided fights that made them look weak or cruel. The commander hesitated. They may not care about appearances. They care, Kale replied. They're sending demands instead of firing. That means they want the station to do the dirty work for them. They want to look reasonable. The commander glanced toward the communications officer. Prepare an open broadcast channel. The officer's hands moved quickly. A shimmering screen appeared in front of the command deck, showing a blank view waiting for connection. Kale looked through the transparent wall at Lyris. She was watching him closely, as if reading his intent through his posture. He lifted a hand slightly, a silent message. Hold on. The open channel activated. The view on the screen changed, revealing the bridge of the lead enemy ship. The space was dark and sharp-edged, lit by cold red strips. At the center sat a figure in heavy armor, their face hidden behind a mask that reflected nothing. We speak at last, the armored figure said. Their voice was mechanical through a translator, but their tone carried arrogance. You will surrender the Illyrian. Kale stepped forward until he was clearly visible on the broadcast. No. The figure paused, as if not used to hearing a simple refusal. Kale continued. This is Vyark's station, a neutral trade hub. You are threatening civilians. You are demanding a living being as property. She is ours, the figure replied. She is a fugitive resource. Kale's jaw tightened. He kept his voice steady. She is a person. The figure's mask turned slightly. Human, you are insignificant. Step away. Kale almost smiled. You're right about one thing. Humans are small in your eyes. That's why you keep making mistakes around us. Behind Kale, the council murmured. The commander watched with sharp attention, as if deciding whether Kale was saving them or dragging them into deeper danger. The armored figure leaned forward. Your shield will fail. Kale nodded, acknowledging the risk. Maybe. But if you fire, everyone watching will see who you are. The figure did not answer. It was hard to tell if they cared or if they were calculating. Kale raised his hand slightly. Lyris! Lyris stepped into view beside the transparent wall. She did not come to the command deck. She remained at the energy platform, surrounded by the glow. But her face appeared clearly on the broadcast, and her eyes shone like quiet stars. The armored figure's posture changed. A subtle shift. Hunger, focus, ownership. There, the figure said, "Deliver her." Lyris spoke, calm and clear. "I am not yours." The figure's voice turned sharp. "You were designed, you belong." Kale felt anger rise, hot and heavy, but he stayed steady. "You talk about belonging like it's a chain." "You will cease this performance," the figure snapped. "Last chance." Kale leaned closer to the camera, his expression serious. "You're right, this is the last chance for you." The figure tilted their head. "Explain." Kale's voice softened, but it carried weight. "Humans don't decide worth by usefulness. We decide worth by life, by choice. That's our strength. That's why we keep showing up in places we shouldn't be." He glanced toward the council, then back to the camera. "Vyerk's station will not surrender an innocent person. If you attack, you will fight the station, and the story of your attack will travel farther than your ships ever could." For a moment, the enemy figure stayed silent. Then the mask turned slightly, as if looking at someone off-screen. Kale could guess what was happening. They were checking outside reactions, scanning public feeds, reading early commentary from neutral observers. Then the figure spoke again. "We do not fear your stories." Kale shrugged slightly. "Then you'll learn too." The figure's voice hardened. "Weapons fire." The screen on the command deck flickered as the connection ended. Outside, the enemy fleet lit up with charging energy. Lines of bright force traveled along their hulls. A second later, multiple beams fired toward the station. The beams struck the shield. The entire station shuddered. Lights flickered. Some screens went dark for a moment, then recovered. The shield held, but the glow rippled across its surface like a struck drum. Lyris gasped softly. Kale saw it through the wall. The energy around her flared and sweat formed along her temples. She was holding back a storm with her bare will. "Stability is dropping," an engineer shouted. "Shield output is fluctuating," the reptilian commander barked orders. "Reinforce secondary nodes, redistribute power." Kale moved instantly, helping a technician stabilize a control panel that was vibrating so hard it threatened to shake loose. He was not a soldier, but he could carry cables, he could relay messages, he could keep people focused. That was another thing humans did well. They filled gaps. Outside, the enemy fleet fired again. The shield pulsed brighter, then dimmed slightly. The glow along the station's inner walls deepened, turning almost purple at the edges. Lyris's knees bent slightly. She caught herself, breathing hard. Kale rushed to the transparent wall. "Lyris, talk to me." Her eyes opened wider. "I can hold, but not like this. They are forcing me to carry the whole station." Kale's mind raced. She needed support, not just mechanical power, emotional stability, connection. He turned to the command deck. "We need to link her with others." The avian diplomat stared. "Others cannot control Illyrian bioenergy." Kale shook his head. "Not control, support. Her ability responds to emotion. We can anchor her." The reptilian commander's eyes narrowed. "How?" Kale pointed toward the station's public intercom network. "Broadcast her memory art again. Let people see her not as a threat, but as someone real. The more people stand with her, the steadier she becomes." The commander hesitated. "That is untested." Kale's voice tightened. "Everything humans do out here is untested." Then the commander nodded once. "Do it." The communications officer acted quickly. The station's internal displays lit up and the public emergency broadcast system opened. Kale looked at Lyris. "Can you show them? Not everything, just enough." Lyris swallowed. Her hands trembled. Then she nodded. She closed her eyes again. The living energy construct appeared, larger than before, spreading like a luminous tapestry. It projected into screens across the station, in corridors, waiting rooms, docking areas, market stalls. It even spilled into open public feeds because the council had chosen to keep the channel open. The construct did not show secrets. It showed truth. A young Lyris standing beneath violet skies, a moment of laughter among her people. Then exile. Then the cold silence of empty travel lanes. Then fear as hunters chased her from world to world. Then the painful exhaustion of always being unwanted. Then finally the moment on Vyerk's station, a human voice, gentle and honest. "Your legs are beautiful, not desire, not ownership. Respect." People across the station stopped moving. A gruff miner from a heavy-gravity world lowered his tools. A family of small amphibious travelers huddled closer together. Even hardened security officers stared at screens with softened expressions. Kale heard the shift in the station's atmosphere. A collective feeling, like a crowd deciding something together without words. Lyris's glow steadied. Her breathing slowed. Outside, the shield brightened again, smoother now, less shaky. When the next volley of enemy fire hit, the shield rippled but held firm. The engineers shouted in surprised relief. "The stability is improving," one yelled. "The fluctuations are lowering," Kale exhaled slowly. He looked through the wall at Lyris. Tears stood at the corners of her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She remained focused, supported by thousands of strangers who, for the first time, saw her clearly. The enemy fleet changed tactics. Their ships shifted formation, moving closer. Small craft launched from their bays, darting toward the shield like insects. "Boarding craft," the commander said sharply. "They're trying to find a weak point." Kale's mind snapped into action again. "They can't breach the shield from outside easily. They'll look for docking bay seams or service tunnels." The commander nodded. "Lock down all external hatches." "Already done," a security officer reported. "But they may attempt to cut through." Kale stared at the tactical display. "Then we meet them where they land." The commander looked at him. "You want to fight?" Kale shook his head. "I want to stop them. There's a difference." The commander gave a short, approving grunt. "Organize civilian volunteers away from combat zones. Leave defense to security." Kale nodded and ran. He moved through corridors, directing frightened groups toward safe areas, speaking in calm, basic words. "This way. Stay together. Keep breathing. Follow the lights." He did not shout. Shouting spread panic. He used steady tone, the same way he might calm a nervous animal or a frightened child. People listened. That also surprised many species. Humans could be loud when they wanted, but when it mattered, they could be calm in the middle of chaos. A sharp vibration ran through the station. Kale nearly stumbled. Overhead lights flickered again. A voice came over the intercom. "External breach attempt at dock ring 3. Security teams responding." Kale turned and sprinted toward dock ring 3, heart pounding. When he arrived, he saw the damage immediately. The corridor's far end was sealed by a heavy blast door, but behind the door came grinding sounds. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Enemy cutters were working through. Security teams formed a line, weapons aimed at the door. Their faces were tight and pale, even behind helmets. Kale slid to a stop beside a security captain, a tall insectoid with metal-plated arms. "They're close," Kale asked. "Too close," the captain replied. "They have advanced cutting tools. In 2 minutes they'll breach." Kale looked around quickly. There were emergency maintenance controls on the wall. He spotted a pressure vent system. An idea struck him, one that was not about violence but physics. He pointed. "Can you open the maintenance vents into the docking tube?" The captain clicked sharply. "Why?" Kale spoke fast. "The docking tube is sealed. If we vent cold gas and drop temperature suddenly, their cutters may stall. Most cutting tools rely on stable heat exchange." The captain hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded. "Do it." Kale slammed the maintenance control panel, overriding locks. Cold emergency gas roared through hidden vents. Frost spread along the corridor floor like sudden winter. Behind the blast door, the grinding sound changed pitch. It became uneven, struggling. The cutters sparked wildly. The captain's mandibles flexed in satisfaction. "Effective." Kale didn't celebrate. He watched the door, listening. The grinding slowed, then stopped. A harsh banging followed, frustrated strikes. Then, surprisingly, a voice came through a weak transmitter. "Open. Surrender the Illyrian. You will be spared." Kale stepped forward, speaking toward the door. "You keep promising mercy like it's a gift. We're not buying it." Silence. Then the banging resumed, harder. Kale looked at the captain. "We can stall them, but not forever." The captain nodded. "Our teams are handling 2 other breach points. We are stretched." Kale thought quickly again. Humans were not stronger, they were not better armed, but they were adaptable. He touched his ear communicator. "Command deck, this is Kale. Dock ring 3 breach attempt stalled by cooling vents. Recommend same tactic at other points if possible." The reply came quickly. "Understood. Good work. Stay alive." Kale almost laughed at that last part. He turned back to the door, then froze as a new sound filled the corridor. Not grinding, not banging, a low humming growing louder. The blast door began to glow faintly, heated from the other side, but not from cutters, from something else. Kale's stomach tightened. "That's not a tool," he whispered. The captain's voice sharpened. "Energy charge, they are using a pulse." Kale's mind raced. An energy pulse could overload the door and the corridor systems, maybe even vent atmosphere. "Back!" he shouted. "Everyone back." Security teams retreated behind a secondary barrier. Kale ducked behind a support pillar. The door erupted in a bright flash. The secondary barrier held, but the corridor shook violently. Smoke filled the air. Emergency lights switched to dim red. Then silence. Kale coughed, waving smoke away. He peeked out. The blast door had not fully opened, but it was cracked, warped. Through the gap, he saw a dark shape trying to force entry. The captain raised a weapon, but Kale grabbed his arm. "Wait," Kale said. The captain hissed. "They are hostile," Kale nodded. "Yes, but if we fire first, they'll say we're the aggressors. If we can disable, not kill." The captain's compound eyes flickered. "Human morality in battle is inconvenient." Kale's mouth tightened. "Maybe, but it's also why others join us." The shape pushed again. Kale stepped forward into the smoky corridor, hands visible, voice loud. "Stop, you don't have to die here." The shape paused. A helmeted soldier emerged partially through the gap, weapon raised. Kale's heart hammered. He kept his hands up. "I'm human," Kale said. "This station is neutral. Leave and you live." The soldier's weapon trembled slightly. Then another soldier appeared behind, pushing forward. "We take Illyrian," the lead soldier said through a rough translator. "You move." Kale swallowed, then said the most human thing he could think of. "No." For a moment, time stretched thin. Kale felt the weight of every eye behind him, every breath, every fear. Then, unexpectedly, the station's lights brightened. The shield's glow surged through the hull. Lyris, her support from the station, was stronger now. She was no longer alone in her focus. The surge interfered with the enemy soldiers' equipment. Their weapon flickered. Their visor flashed warnings. They stumbled. The security captain seized the moment. His team deployed an entanglement net, non-lethal but strong. It wrapped around the soldier and yanked him backward. The second soldier tried to pull free, but the frosted corridor slowed them. Security teams pushed forward, forcing the breach gap closed with emergency barriers. Within minutes, Dock Ring 3 was secured again. Kale exhaled, knees weak. He leaned against the wall, shaking slightly. The captain looked at him. "Your talk distracted them." Kale gave a strained smile. "I guess words are a weapon, too." The captain made a clicking sound that might have been a laugh. Kale's communicator buzzed. "Kale, return to command deck. The enemy fleet is changing behavior." Kale ran. Back on the command deck, the tactical screens showed the enemy ships pulling back slightly. Their small craft returned. Their weapons still charged, but their formation loosened. The reptilian commander stared at the display. "They are reconsidering." The avian diplomat's feathers ruffled. "Public feeds are reacting strongly. Neutral factions are condemning them." Kale's chest rose with cautious hope. The story is working. Lyris stepped from the energy platform into the command deck doorway, supported by 2 medical staff. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were clear. "They feel pressure," she said softly. "Their kind fears being seen." Kale moved toward her. "Can you hold the shield longer?" She nodded faintly. "Yes, but I do not want endless war." Neither did Kale. He looked at the communications screen. "Open the channel again." The communications officer did it. The enemy leader appeared once more, mask unreadable. Their voice was colder now. "You have interfered with lawful reclamation." Kale's voice remained steady. "You attacked civilians, that's what everyone saw." The masked figure paused. Kale could almost hear them calculating damage, not physical damage, but reputational damage, political damage. Then the figure spoke. "We will withdraw for now." Kale did not smile, he stayed cautious. "And you will stop hunting her." The figure's mask tilted slightly. "No promise." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Then you'll keep losing." Silence. Then finally the figure said, "Human, why do you protect her?" Kale glanced at Lyris, then back at the mask. "Because she's alone, and because you treat living beings like tools. Humans don't respect that." The figure's voice turned sharp again, but weaker. "Your species is foolish." Kale shrugged. "Maybe, but we're still here." The channel cut. On the tactical display, the enemy fleet began to move away, engines flaring. One by one, their ships slipped into hyperspace, leaving the stars behind them untouched. A long silence filled the command deck. Then the station erupted in quiet relief. Not cheering like a stadium, but the softer sounds of survival, people laughing through tears, hugging, sitting down because their legs could finally stop shaking. Kale turned to Lyris. "You did it." She shook her head slowly. "We did it." The reptilian commander approached, posture straighter than before. "Human Kale, Illyrian Lyris, the station council acknowledges that our decision was correct." Kale blinked. For a reptilian commander, that was nearly a poem. The avian diplomat stepped closer, feathers glowing faintly. "The galaxy is talking. Many are impressed." Kale rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly self-conscious. I didn't do it for attention. Lyris looked at him with a tired, honest softness. That is why it matters. Medical teams guided Lyris to a recovery room. Kale followed, refusing to leave her alone while she was weak. Inside, the lighting was gentle. The hum of machines was quiet. Lyris sat on a medical bed, hands resting in her lap, shoulders slightly slumped. Kale sat in a chair nearby. For a while, neither spoke. The silence felt different now, less guarded, more comfortable. Finally, Lyris said quietly, "When I invited you to see something prettier, I feared you would misunderstand." Kale looked at her. "I didn't," she nodded. "You did not see me as a trophy or a threat. You saw me as me." Kale's voice was soft. "You deserve that." Her eyes shimmered faintly. "Humans are strange," Kale smiled gently. "We get that a lot." Lyris lifted her hands slightly. A small version of her energy construct formed, delicate and calm. It showed a simple image now, the observation window, the gas giant below, and two figures standing side by side. "This," she said, "is what was truly beautiful." Kale swallowed, feeling something tighten in his chest. Not fear, not adrenaline, hope. Outside the recovery room, news feeds spread across the trade networks. The story of Vierk's station traveled fast. A station that refused to surrender a refugee, and a human who reminded the galaxy that strength did not always come from weapons. Some called it foolish, others called it brave, but everyone talked about it. And that mattered because predators hated attention. Kale stood slowly. "What will you do now?" Lyris hesitated. "If I stay, they may return. If I leave alone, they will hunt me again." Kale nodded slowly, then said the words before he could overthink them. "Then don't go alone." She stared at him. "You would follow me?" Kale shrugged lightly, hiding nervousness with simplicity. "I'm a traitor. I travel anyway, and I made a promise when I said no to them. I'm not good at breaking promises." Lyris's expression softened into something almost like a smile. "Humans are stubborn," Kale grinned. "Told you?" Days later, as repairs finished and the station returned to normal, Kale and Lyris walked through Dock Bay 9. A human ship waited there, small, sturdy, nothing fancy. It looked insignificant beside the massive cruisers and sleek alien craft around it, yet people watched them as they passed, not with fear this time, with respect. Some nodded. Some offered gestures of goodwill in their own ways. A few even spoke words Kale never expected to hear directed at a human. "Thank you." Kale did not let it inflate his ego. He knew humans could be messy, humans could be wrong, humans could make mistakes. But humans could also choose to stand in front of a door and say no when it mattered. Before boarding, Lyris paused and looked back at the station one last time. Her eyes held a mix of pain and relief, like someone leaving a place that changed them. Kale stood beside her quietly. Lyris turned to him. "The hunters will not forget," Kale nodded. "Then we won't either." They boarded the ship. As it lifted from the docking clamps and slid into open space, Vierk's station shrank behind them. Stars stretched ahead like endless roads. Kale watched the navigation display, plotting a course that avoided predictable lanes. Lyris sat in the co-pilot seat, still tired but calmer now, her presence filling the ship with a strange, steady warmth. After a long silence, Kale spoke softly. "So, what's next?" Lyris looked out at the stars. "Next, we find a place where I can breathe," Kale nodded. "Then that's where we're going." The ship entered hyperspace, leaving a bright streak behind. And somewhere far away in the dark between systems, the hunters watched the spreading story and felt something new. Not anger, not hunger, unease, because the galaxy had seen a human stand beside an Illyrian and refused to look away. And once a story like that exists, it never fully disappears. It becomes a warning. It becomes a spark. It becomes the beginning of something larger than one station, one refugee, or one stubborn human who decided that beauty was not a body, but the courage to trust.